Hey everyone, it's Nightlight9. In this video we're going to cover the event dungeon Padapili Sea Cave. There's 4 days left in this, so after a request on one of the comments, I'm going to do a video and show how I would clear this dungeon. So, the setup here that I'm going to use, Aerith, Tifa, and Sephiroth. Jumping right in, Aerith has her typical setup as far as the fairy tale for healing. I've got Mithril Rod here for some magic defense, and because it's her next most leveled weapon. I chose Torn Wing mostly for physical defense here. I chose Beach Parasol for HP, magic defense, and Crystal Gloves for HP. One of the things you want to keep in mind in this is that you'd like to get your HP high, and also I would try to do a mix of physical and magical defense. The enemies do hit pretty hard, especially the last couple of bosses, and it is important that you're able to stay alive during that. All of the enemies require circle sigil break, so I've got that on every character in one of their slots. Also, pretty much every boss, except for the final boss, he doesn't have any resistances or weaknesses, but every other boss in this, or every other symbol boss, has a weakness to either fire or ice, and so I'm bringing Blizzara on her and Fyra as well. Tifa, I'm bringing Tifa because you kind of have to treat this event or this Crisis Dungeon similar to the way you would treat an Ifrit or Shiva battle, in that you're going to need to debuff some of them, especially towards the later bosses. So Tiger Fangs is always crucial, giving that upper shot ability to decrease magic attack. That is going to be pretty big. I used these Kaiser Knuckles only because it's the next best thing that I had for her as the Crystal Gloves. I need those for the HP boost on whoever else I thought needed to stay alive and needed more HP. She's got a fire, an ice, and a sigil break, all pretty standard. Sub-equip, Buster Sword is just for the HP. 1,000 Waves is for HP and magic defense, and Piece of Cake is just for some extra physical defense on her. And lastly, we have Sephiroth. One more thing I wanted to mention. Because they are weak to fire and ice, you will want to bring both of your summons into this. And so I'm using level 5 Hellfire on Tifa, and Sephiroth will be using level 2 Diamond Dust. I chose to go with the ice on him because his main weapon here, the Edged Wings, gives that ice potency plus 24. His garb also gives extra ice damage, so he is the ice damage dealer. He's the Ice King. So, as for a secondary weapon, we went with Nameless here, mostly because it gives extra HP, but also Telluric Fury is pretty good. It decreases magic defense, and so we can use that to get a little extra DPS in. Because he doesn't need a special ice attack, he already has it with his weapon. I did not put an ice materia on him, just fire materia. And he's got his circle sigil break, and then up here I've used Healing Asuna Poison on him. The last boss can cast a poison ability, and to be able to take that off, I've got this on him. Normally you might put this on Aerith, that would be absolutely fine. However, the stats on this are pretty decent, giving physical defense a little bit, magic defense, and then a big boost to magic attack. And so I stuck that on Sephiroth to ultimately help his DPS. For sub-weapons, Max Ray was just for physical defense. That's how much I am prioritizing that. Ifrit Sword for the HP, and this weapon actually for none of these boosts really. It's mostly just because I have it leveled, it's got pretty good stats over here, and so that's just to kind of help him because he is my main DPSer. So with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get into the dungeon. Alright, we'll start by going ahead and picking this up. You can take either one of these. I typically take the Blizzard Cocktail because if I'm going to use it, since Sephiroth has higher ice damage, I figure adding the buff to him will ultimately maybe increase my DPS considering doing that for the final boss. So the first guy, Assault Scorpion, he is weak to fire, and so you want to use obviously as much fire as you can. I'm going to be using Upper Shot consistently on most of the bosses, and then also trying to get the Telluric Fury going, just so that I can try to also lower their magic resistance. But other than that, it'll be pretty much just focusing on using Aerith to keep my party as healed up as possible. Anytime you see the sigils, you definitely want to focus on breaking them pretty much ASAP. That kind of goes for almost every one of the fights. You never want to get caught with any of those big moves that they throw out at the end of those. First big AoE move, and it didn't feel that bad. We have been keeping him pretty debuffed, and so he's just really not putting out much damage. He's also the very first boss, so obviously not a whole lot going on there. One of the big keys to getting a decent score, or even just clearing this Crisis Dungeon, because it is considerably difficult, but one of the keys is to constantly keep these summons ready, and we are going to use those quite liberally in just about all of the fights, or at least we're going to basically alternate them. Any of the guys that are weak to ice, we're going to spam the Diamond Dust, and any of the ones that are weak to fire, we'll spam that Hellfire out. And if you notice, I'm constantly paying attention to his debuffs under here, just so that I can make sure conserving as much of my HP as possible, because this stage does not give you a whole lot of HP refills, not compared to the difficulty of the content. I think we'll end up getting one tent and a handful of supplements that we can use to get our HP back. Okay, and basically I don't want to lose any of my healing potency here, so I'm going to just take the small fire buff. Healing is going to be a big deal, especially if your team, isn't, somewhere in the 140 to 150k range, which this one is about 127, I think. All right. And we should recognize these bombs from some previous battles. This guy is weak to ice, and so I'm going to go ahead and just use the Diamond Dust straight away. Mostly because I'm trying to get as much damage in. I want to kill him as fast as possible, and I really want to kill the ads too, just to make my life easier, so that I don't have to worry about trying to keep up with heals while also doing things like breaking these sigils. And so, also, if you're tracking, the first boss was weak to fire, this boss was weak to ice, and it'll kind of rotate that way, except for I think more bosses are weak to ice in this Crisis Dungeon than are weak to fire. And so we'll be using a little bit more of our ice attacks, ultimately. Alright, Tifa just got one shot. That is definitely not ideal, but we should be able to still kind of make this work. The one nice thing about the Crisis Dungeons is that even when you lose a character, as soon as the battle's over, they are back with 1 HP, and so that'll be okay. The only thing that is not ideal, essentially, is that I think it does lower our score a little bit, and she will lose any of her summon gauge that was being filled up. Again, don't want to lose the healing potency, so I'm just going to go ahead and take the weakest buff there. I'm just going to go ahead and cast Healing Wind right off the bat here to try to keep Tifa alive and see if I can get her to survive through this. I'm going to start using Sephiroth here because for some reason it seems like even though I'm on semi, the other character should be autoing, but it seems like they're letting their bar fill quite a bit more than they normally do. I'm not really sure if they made some sort of change to that in the AI, but definitely Sephiroth is the king here of killing these guys. Every aerial Frostblade will more or less take one down or put them, within one cast from death. And so that's pretty easy. And they do that same thing where if they get low, they will do the explosion, but they're pretty weak. And since there's no boss, they're pretty easy to just go ahead and take out. This is where we get the tent. In previous runs, I experimented with the summon charge because the summons are really important. But ultimately, this dungeon gives you enough. It gives you enough, extra fights where you can constantly kind of build up that gauge anyway. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and use a supplement on Tifa. I'm probably actually just going to use both of them. It's not ideal to probably use an item before this, but you got to be able to be flexible and kind of just go with whatever happens. I don't like to prematurely end runs just because something happened that wasn't ideal, and so we just do our best to make do with what we have, and especially if just kind of clearing it for an ideal I think if you just clear the content in general, you probably at least get a B if you make it through every single one of the bosses, including the final boss. So that's kind of what this guide is mostly aimed towards. I didn't use my strongest team. I'm not going for trying to get everybody to an S or an S+. It's just mostly try to get every single boss cleared so that you can get the highest score that you can get. And if you notice that I'm jumping around a little bit more than I usually do, I am. And again, it's just because I feel like the AI is not doing as good of a job autoing their abilities. They're, like you see this, they're just letting the bar fill up quite a bit. And I think, I don't know, it feels like there's been maybe some internal adjustment to the AI in the game when you have it set to semi, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't confirm that. It just feels that way. Which, honestly, I would be kind of okay with, because I like it when I can switch over to another character and they have a bar so that I can use what I want to use. I think that's pretty awesome. Here, I'm going to go ahead and take the fire potency. Normally, I kind of like to go with what I'm the strongest with, but I do know that the fourth boss, Galen Balor, he is weak to fire, and he can be kind of tricky. So I want to make sure I can do as much damage to him and get everything kind of rolling. I'm going to take the magic jelly. Sephiroth is my main damage dealer, and So I want, you know, his magic attack to be, it's already the highest of any stat I think that anybody has as far as attacking. So giving that a boost will ultimately give me the most boost if I choose to use that. There is a box over here on the left. I've already collected it in a previous run, but just so you don't miss it. And there is one more fight up here in this area before you get to that box. We will save that for after this fight to be able to build up our gauge again. And this fight is pretty tricky. I'm going to go ahead and use the tent here just to kind of get everybody really nice and topped up. You could use an item here if you want. In fact, you know, I was kind of struggling earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and use a magic jelly on Sephiroth, even though we're going to be using the fire potency from Tifa, or, you know, the Ifrit to do the actual fight. That's the most damaging thing, but Sephiroth is still my main damage dealer, so I'm going to use I'm going to give myself a little bit of help. One thing that's very important, he will do a rush attack in the very beginning. It caught me off guard twice in a row when I've done this. So I will immediately switch to defense in order to tank that. It's kind of cheeky how they throw that in there. All right, here we are, and now is a good time to get a Hellfire in. And I'm going to go ahead and do an upper shot too as soon as I have enough ATB, just to try to take down his ability to do damage with this Thunderfall. And it's still quite a bit of damage, as you can see, even with the debuffs. So that's why it's important to bring, you know, some debuffs there. Now, as soon as he starts this, we want to just go ahead and break this sigil as fast as possible. I'm saving my healing wind just so that I can continually do DPS in case he gets me low. I don't have to stop breaking the sigils. Notice that I'm probably going to need an upper shot soon, so I'm just going to get that in, even though he just mended. So I don't think he does nearly as much damage during this time. You want to break this. It's like nearly impossible to heal or to damage him through it unless you have a really beast team. So we're just going to focus on breaking that sigil. I'll do one heal here to keep everybody as high as possible, and I will go back to DPSing. I'm actually going to set up here for just an all-around big hit here. And the reason is the next fight is going to be 3 ice bombs, and they do take a little bit of time. I should be able to get most of these gauges, you know, back up by that time. And I really want to take as little of damage from him moving forward as possible. So we'll just kind of try to burst DPS him down here so he doesn't get that last move off. And so I think things are going pretty well. Obviously, we had Tifa die to that big attack earlier, but you know, we're up and rolling. We've, I think, fully recovered from that. Our score isn't amazing, but you know, we're looking like we're in good shape to be able to clear this dungeon. And that's the goal. So I'm really happy with that. Here, I'm going to take the ice potency now because we already took fire potency, and I think ice is just more important because we don't have, you know, the fire type weapon and garb like we do with Sephiroth's ice. And so I'm going to take that ice and hope that it really helps me with the DPS. Goal here is to kill one of these guys as fast as possible, and then immediately get on to getting everybody as topped up as possible And then shortly after, we will try to kill a second one so that it gets just a little bit easier. But also just trying to maintain as much health as possible, since we did use the tent, and I think I also used at least one other health item, if I remember correctly. We are going to be a little bit low on health refill stuff. But at the end of the day, especially, if you haven't been able to clear these, very hard dungeons, then, the most important thing is just to get them cleared. So, in my opinion, use all the items you need to in order to clear it. I mean, yeah, you're going to miss out on a little bit of item score bonus, but it's better to clear it all and at least get, maybe a B than to not be able to clear it and get a D, right? All right, so we've got some extra supplements here. Just gonna go ahead and post up right outside of them and take a look at what we have. Okay, so we do have 5 supplements. That's quite good. We can go ahead and get everybody really close to full HP. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually heal Aerith all the way to full with that. I'm not going to worry about actually healing them. I think Aerith will have enough time to get their HP back up, and so I'm going to try to conserve items as much as possible. However, I am going to give Sephiroth the magic jelly again, and I'm going to give him a blizzard cocktail as well, because he's going to probably be doing a lot of ice damage, and I really just want to make sure I can clear this fight. So, as I had said in the beginning of this video, he does eventually cast a poison, AoE poison. That will be something that we will be looking to try to get rid of fast, because it does take quite a bit of health down over time. Other than that, the only other really annoying thing that he does, besides some pretty big single target attacks, is he will add in ads. And so I'm going to try to save my summons as much as possible to deal with those ads. Really want to get an upper shot in here. Trying to keep Tifa alive as much as possible. This fist bash, it's pretty brutal. And I'm not even gonna mess around. I'd like to combo this, but I really don't want Tifa to die, because I am going to need as much damage as possible, so just not gonna play around with that, and I'm gonna try to get another upper shot in, just mostly so I don't have to focus on this as much. Alright, and then we can just start breaking this sigil down as fast as possible. Here come the ads, and so I'm going to Hellfire and Diamond Dust because they're annoying and I don't want to deal with them. And the combination of these two should kill the ads fairly simply, while also getting in, a pretty fair amount of damage to him, because, we've got him kind of debuffed and everything. I don't think I needed that Curaga, but I always am just hyper vigilant of making sure that everybody has plenty of HP. Alright, this Mako Expulsion, I believe, is the ability that does the poison. Yeah. So we will jump to Sephiroth. Hopefully he doesn't use anything yet, and immediately just start healing everybody up. All right, and we've taken off poison. That's good. I believe this is going to be just a lesser AoE move. Actually kind of hurt pretty much. But we've got the cure ready. So there we go. And I'm going to really try to start getting in some DPS now. Try to get in one more upper shot. That should, I think, be the last one we really need. Oh no. Well, there goes Aerith. So this just got a whole lot harder. Alright, I see that he's pretty low, so I'm going to just hop on Sephiroth and try to get in as much damage as I possibly can. Okay, there we go. Wasn't pretty. Wasn't pretty, but we cleared it. And if you noticed when I started the video, I did get an S ranking on this with a much stronger party. It was my main party is about 147,000 combat power. And so this is, 20,000 combat power less. Probably some things could have gone a little bit better for me in this run, right? This is, I think, even for this team, it's not an optimal run, but it's kind of, what happens when you're trying to film a video, especially in one take, to really show people a genuine run through of what these look like. And so at the end of the day, we got an A+, right? I mean, hey, I think that's amazing. We had 2 deaths, we used a bunch of items, still got an A+. That's only 1 rank under S, and so I feel really good about that. And I hope that you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please give the video a like. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or want to see any other type of content, then drop a comment. Like I said, I decided to do this video because of a comment on a previous video. And if you'd like to see more content from me, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks.